And I've always maintained that the real innovation for the future of education in the use of technology will come from the developing world. And the reason it will come from the developing world is because the developing world is faced with challenges the industrialized world will never understand. Will never understand. And already, and the huge opportunity for many parts of the most challenged parts of the world is this notion of leapfrogging technology. They don't have to make the mistakes that we have made in the industrialized world. And already we're beginning to see some of these signs that if you go and look at the statistics of internet access for 2014 in continents like Africa, the majority of access to the internet is through smartphones, more than any traditional standard desktops. There are amazing projects. I'm thinking of the Commonwealth of Learning, the Classroom Without Walls, that on little $80 devices can set up local area networks, that small battery, wireless network, low-cost tablets. I'm thinking of the Akash initiative in India, where what government is doing is they're taking the money that they spent on printing textbooks and they replacing them with low-cost tablets. It's a very smart move because you can put all the textbooks you want on a smart tablet that costs $80. So government is actually subsidizing and funding the low-cost Android tablets. We're going to see some very, very interesting developments in the developing part of the world. They're going to use technologies in ways that the industrialized world hasn't even thought of.
Yeah, the point about mobile phones is very important because actually most of the MOOCs, at least as represented by edX and Coursera, have very highly produced videos, very high bandwidth. And there's already a recent article in the Chronicle of Higher Education detailing the failure of the MOOCs to reach Africa for exactly that reason, that literally was beyond their bandwidth constraints to actually receive a MOOC. And so the second part will be the technologies that are actually mobile adapted and then actually even the pedagogy of the MOOCs as they've been primarily practiced so far may change in a mobile environment.
The question was, are MOOCs for all, if I recall? And I think the answer is yes, and it depends. I think you will have, just like the fact that we have 10 people teach chemistry in a face-to-face in a different way, and some of them will be more successful than others. I believe the MOOC is not different. It's not like you have a whole spectrum of instruction which is in face-to-face, and we accept that we have inspired lecturers, less inspired lecturers, but the MOOC is only one, and it's either like binary whether it works or not. We will always have great MOOCs, and I think that they will work very well. And there will be some lousy MOOCs maybe, and they won't work, and hopefully whoever put them there will learn from that failure. If you look at the most successful, one of the most successful people to teach physics, Walter Lewin, his videos were already there. What edX is doing, they're not doing it again. They're using the same videos and putting them in shorter snippets, and they're putting tests within, and they are still very, very popular. So I think really what you are looking at is, do you have the passion, the belief, and you are able to engage? And I can tell you that the person who can engage you face to face will engage you on the phone, will engage you in a video. Normally it's like that. Yeah.
Right, thank you. So basically from the learner's perspective, it still depends on the champions, and there's no real panacea to everything works for everything. More questions, please? Yes.
Good afternoon, Alicia from Graduate School of Business. There were so many questions in my mind, but I think I'm just going to opt for this so that you could inspire us with your own thoughts and ideas. And the question is, What is your personal vocation in this whole concept of global classroom, the whole concept of flipped classroom, or the whole concept of open source learning? I mean, for each, the three of you, your experience and what you're doing or you plan to do, could you share with us your personal vocation, what you want to see things happen in your lifetime? What irks you? What moves you? What wakes you up in the middle of the night? What would you like to see things happen? What is your passion in this context? Thank you.
It's an easy question. This is going to be an interesting connection. I don't readily admit this publicly, but I started life out as an accountant. And I changed to become a teacher. I mean, I have a high regard for the commercial studies. I mean, it's my own background, and I have to say it helped me a lot because when designing sustainable OER projects, you need to know a little bit about how money works, because to become sustainable, you need that knowledge. But that aside, I'm a teacher by choice, and I joined this profession, and this is what drives me every day, is to share knowledge freely. Every time an educator steps into a classroom, the purpose is to share knowledge. This is what drives me.
So it's funny because whenever I talk to a new group and I try to understand what their situation is, I always ask them that question: what keeps you up at night? And so I'll tell you my own nightmare, which literally was a nightmare. So I was asleep, dreaming, and I wake and I'm in the back of a large lecture hall that's outdoors, and I don't know my schedule. I don't know what classes I'm supposed to go to. I don't know where I'm supposed to be next, and I don't understand what the professor is saying. And so that nightmare, I guess, animates me, that it seems to me that it's within our possibility now to make sure that nightmare that sounds very common to a lot of students who start out their university careers in the same way, that we can actually ease that path, and that by enabling the capacity to have higher education become universally available, that as societies we can actually decrease inequality, and we can provide opportunity for large segments of the population that otherwise would never be able to have those dreams, if you will. And so that, for me, is the end result of what all of this has to be, is that we create a very rational higher education system in which the planet becomes capable of joining hands to solve the problems that we face today.
We still have a lot of time. Okay. That's a very nice question. And personally, to me, MOOCs or open resources or technology is not really my immediate passion. I'm passionate about them as tools. The real passion, which, sorry, I'm trying to guide you to my website. It's called thinklikeanengineer.org. So you go and tap on something called Mission Zero. Okay, so what really drives me is there are two variables that I would like to bring them to zero. The first variable is the tuition fees. I want to bring the tuition fees to zero. Now, if I can bring the tuition fees to zero in a private university, in a private for-profit university, it means you could copy this model anyway, because we get zero funding from the government. We are taxed by the government at 20%. So the first thing I want to do is to bring the tuition fees to zero, and you could read about how I would like to do that. The second variable is I want to have a zero impact on the job market. So every university churns out at the end of the year hundreds, some thousands of graduates to join millions of graduates who are sort of fighting for the same jobs. And this is something that I feel I don't like. So what I'm trying to do is, if my school graduates 100 students and the 95 of them go and take jobs from the job market, I'm hoping that 5 students will have some entrepreneurial endeavors that will generate 95 jobs. Now, the 95 jobs need not be engineering jobs, but I would like to have the students to think, or the graduate to think of how to create jobs, and the job could be a secretary, a driver, a dispatch boy, whatever. So I do have a curve when this is to happen. So it's progressive. It has to happen progressively, and really I hope it happens within my lifetime. So this is what I'm hoping for. So mission zero, zero tuition fees, zero impact on the job market. And whatever available to achieve this, I will use it. And when there is a new technology that will come in a week from today, I'll be the first advocate if I feel that this is going to do it. Now, let me just tell you a little bit more. I've been talking about this to my students, and interestingly, a group of them came to me and say, we really would like to take this on, some of my graduates. So I have 3 students now who are with me as postgraduate students, but that's just a cover-up. They are working on doing something that hopefully will create some jobs. So there are 3 of them, everyone is working on a different thing. So I thought these people need a name, so I named them the Zeroers, because they will help me achieve Mission Zero. And the latest reincarnation is, I thought, like, if I wait for so long and I only have 3 and maybe, I don't know, hopefully one of them will succeed, this is not enough. So now I have created a new program called the Sub-Zero program, whereby the students actually can join upon joining my school, and they will be on that program for 3 years. By year 3, if they are not able to crowdfund or raise 10,000 ringgit, I think they cannot be a zeroer. So now we have a sort of a process. Now, I pitched this to the students 2 weeks ago, the Sub-Zero program, on their, I give them a talk when they come, my welcome speech. And I was actually shocked for the number of people who were interested in joining the Sub-Zero program. So Sub-Zero, Zero, Mission Zero. That's what keeps me awake day and night. Thank you.
Thank you. So basically it's a social question, and all of you have very noble agendas and to alleviate some of these problems that we face in the world. There was a gentleman in the back who wanted to ask a question.
Actually, I have 3. Do you mind take them? All right. My name is Chan. The first question is this. MOOC or OCW or OE or whatever, however you call it, hinges on the assumption that people want to learn. But what about for a university population, let's say in Malaysia, that has very poor foundation, that has no idea how to learn, not a motivation to learn? So how does MOOC come into the picture? That's number 1. The second question is this. Just now Professor talked about MOOC should not be top-down. I have a feeling that it may be bastardized and become a policy at the institutional or even the national level. So may you elaborate why MOOC should not be top-down? And the third question is a little bit out of context. Just now Mr. Cooperman talks about the massification of higher learning. Who should take up the massification of higher learning? Is it the universities or the TAFE? That is an Australian term, TAFE colleges. I ask this because there was a comment in the Sydney Morning Herald that has this debate, and I quote, just give me a moment. He said, this is written by an adjunct professor from UTS. it said, as a general rule, if a course has a practical component or an internship, it should not be offered in a university. Now that ruffles a few feathers. Universities are places where you go to learn about theory. They teach you things that you may not need to know, but that no one else would bother to tell you. TAFE and colleges of advanced education teach you what you need to earn a living. So should this massification be soaked up by universities or TAFE? Thank you.
The population, and you're right, it's a significant phenomenon that is taking place all over the world. My response to that question is I don't know what we should do about that. I really don't, but I'm keen to find out how to address that problem. The second question was related to the top-down MOOC strategy. I don't care if it comes top-down, bottom-up. Anyway, work cuts it for me. I'm an open source guy. We take and reuse. If it comes from bottom up, that's great. If it comes from top down, that's great. We will leverage anything we can to realize this vision and dream of opening education for all learners worldwide. The third question is, should universities or TAFE, take up these challenges around massification? I think that's an extremely complex question, and I think it's an extremely important one. Without giving a cop-out answer, I think both sectors need to be working at this. Both TAFE, the vocational education sector, as well as the university sector. My hope is, as somebody who spent my career working in universities as an institution and the conscience of society, my hope is that universities will also take up this mission. Because if we don't, we have so much to lose. In terms of, Universitas Magisterium et Scholarum, we are a community of scholars, and we're a community of scholars through our research. And in fact, we are the reason for our own demise. The success of the university worldwide in terms of massification is the reason why we are struggling. Because we have more trained knowledge workers outside the university system than what we have within the system. And our model has been tremendously successful. So I'm on the side of the universities finding the solution, but not at the exclusion of anybody else.
So many years ago, I was the vice president of an arts college, and so the issue kept coming up because this is the early days of multimedia. The students were very excited, and yet the curriculum and the professors were still rooted in the fine arts, the crafts, ceramics, glass blowing, and so forth. And from the faculty standpoint, they said the reason why we don't want to use computers at this college is because that's simply what somebody might do for a job. It's practical. It doesn't have to do with kind of the cultural transmission that really is the mission of the college and the style of education. So they had really actually internalized the elite mission of the university. And what they were actually doing on a practical matter was saying to their art school graduates was go work at Starbucks. Even though you have the skills to do very high-end work that has higher salaries and so forth, was we don't want you doing that at our college. And we don't want to be part of that kind of educational transmission. So what happens is actually, over the years, of course, they lost the battle. You can't, hold the barbarians at the gates. Multimedia came in and is now, an integral part of what happens at an arts college. All sorts of computer-generated projects are standard practice. So the notion is that you can't, it used to be the idea that there were these barriers between the practical. I mean, schools of engineering were just, nothing you'd want at one of our universities, right? It's something that somebody does for a job. But now, of course, we've integrated all those professional schools that we used to frown upon. And so we simply see this shifting mission of universities, this shifting form of universities as they move from elite systems to massified systems or mass systems of education. And finally, we hope to universal systems in which you'll see this divide between the practical, the internship, and the other kinds of education that goes on in a university. We might see those boundaries shifting dramatically.
I'll start by answering question number 2 because it was directed to me. What I meant by don't use it as top-down is don't say you, and you. I want to see MOOCs. I'm actually quite agreeable with the Ministry of Education to say there is a national policy for MOOC. And I think there is, like, they are doing 10 or 20 courses. Now, if you have 20 courses, and I actually, I had a meeting with a very high-ranking official of the ministry, and that was my suggestion to him. And he took note, and I don't know what's going to happen. So, you want 20 MOOCs. Instead of saying you, and you, why don't you run a national competition to actually select the best 20th MOOC? So you will have maybe out of the thousands of academic, maybe you will have few hundreds who are interested in this. They will submit their proposals. Then you will use an international panel of academics and even some students, and then you select maybe the top 50, and then out of this, you get these people to go and see how other people did it, and then they see this as an honor. They see this as something that was awarded to them rather than, just additional work, and now I have to stay at night to address all these students and things like that. So it's okay to have this as a national agenda, but let the movement come from the bottom up. And likewise at the university level, if you want 2 MOOCs, then you just say, okay, who will be the best people? And the best way to flush these people is not to speak to the dean and say, nominate someone. Sometimes you need to do it in an organic manner. So this is how I wanted to address question number 2. Question number 1 and number 3, I think they are really related, the way that I see them. Now, if you see that there is a population that refuses to learn, that's what you say, or not interested in learning, I really would like to ask myself, is this the failure of the population or the failure of the university that you sort of outlined with your quote from the UTS professor? So we have things that you don't need, no one told you, and you expect these smart people who have access to all the world around them to come and sort of so-called learn. So I think we as academic institutions, we really need to reinvent, refine, rediscover our role in this 21st century. You know, even a child now goes to Google to find answers. While I have, if I have a bit of time, I do, every semester I deliver training classes to my lecturers, especially the new ones. And I start sometimes with the question, what do you think your role as a lecturer is? And guess what is the number 1 answer? Oh, I teach them. I transfer my knowledge to them. But actually, my students now, when I sit, they open the computer and they check everything I say. If I give them a wrong day, they say, no, it wasn't this, it wasn't that. If the high school that you mentioned was not Santiago, someone would have checked it out and say, it's not, it's actually the other one. So they are an empowered group of people, and we need maybe to address them differently. So if the lecturers still see their role as, I'm an expert, and I'm the fountain of knowledge, and my definition of learning is that you come and drink, maybe the students does not subscribe to this, and we need to revisit this. So what I suggested to the students, to my lecturers, after I show them a video, I told them your role is actually a coach. You need to believe in the potential of your students. Then I asked them to narrate a situation in which, I'm talking to the lecturers now, in which they were able to achieve something that they were not able to achieve if it was not for another individual who believed in them. You know, I'll share one story of one of my lecturers, which, you know, all of us, we get so emotional. She said when she was a child, her father thought she was a retard. And he treated her as a retarded person. Her mom, who is an illiterate lady, she kept on believing in her. And this person now is a lecturer at Taylor's University with a PhD in mechanical engineering. You just imagine if she believed her father that she was a retard. Now, this lady looks like a retard. I mean, sorry, the way she thinks, because she's so smart, you really need to think of what is she saying, and then, goodness, she meant that? So we as people, we need that affirmation from a third party to say, you look good, what you say is right, your question is good. And I think when the lecturer stands and say, oh, I'm talking about thermodynamics, this is the way to do it, I don't think maybe the students need this, and that's why maybe you have outlined or indicated or observed that there is disinterest in learning.
All right, thank you. Basically, we have time for one more question. Yes.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am a teacher. My name is Dr. Sazali from Rexham. Since we are nearing the limit of the time, I would like to ask a very simple question. Actually, as a teacher, we want to deliver knowledge. But we want to deliver the knowledge in the sense that our students, at the end of the day, they can think and solve the problem. But from my life, the time when I started teaching at the age of 25, and now I am 55, I find that most of the content in the internet whatsoever, we are trying to tell the students that everything is easy. When everything is easy for the students, we have provided that avenue. Many of our students, many of my students, I found that they are not able to think in order to solve practical problem in their life. So that is what I'm trying to tell. The thing that I'm trying to summarize is we have made our students not able to solve the problem in a practical manner. When they subscribe the knowledge that everything is easy and 24/7 ever provided. Thank you.
No, I think it's a question of the design of courses that the starting by providing information is not the right way to go. That the beginning of the course is to get people to think about it and to express their own hypotheses about the subject. Once they've been able to do that, even if the hypotheses are proven to be false, they're receptive to receiving information. So a lot of the projects, peer-to-peer university uses a challenge method. So the idea is you start with a challenge, get people working on something where the assumption is not that they know everything about it at the beginning or that all the information has been delivered, but you get them to start to conceptualize. And after that, yes, then you can present the information to a receptive, engaged student.
I think it's a critical challenge, and you're clearly a very experienced teacher who has been doing a lot of thinking about how to promote thinking in the classroom. So, I mean, I do agree with you. I mean, I guess it's this whole. I mean, and just to echo what Larry has been saying, you can't learn to swim without getting your feet wet, right? So how do you learn to think without thinking? And so I guess that what we're saying is, and again, echoing what Larry has just said, technology doesn't determine the quality of learning. It's the design which the technology implements, which does. So the gems of wisdom that you have as an experienced educator that have promoted thinking, That's what we have to implement. Those are the designs we have to implement in this world.
All right, thank you very much. So it's been a very fruitful 1.5 hours. A lot of questions were asked and a lot of answers. And range from practical skills to philosophy, the agendas and everything. So I'd like you all to again please give a rousing applause to our three distinguished panelists. Thank you. So now I pass it back to Dr. Rosina.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Wan. Thank you, moderator, forum panelists, for this entertaining, informative, and I say very interactive discussion. Okay, I'm glad to see many ask questions this time, and I would like to thank all the participants for being actively involved in posing very fruitful questions to our distinguished panel. So now I would like to call upon Prof. Karim to come to the stage to present tokens of appreciation to our three keynote speakers and also our forum moderator. Please welcome. So now I'd like to present a token of appreciation to Mr. Larry Cooperman. Okay, thank you. Dr. Wayne Mackintosh. Professor Dr. Mushtak Al-Atabi. And my dear colleague, Professor Dr. Fauzy Ismail. Thank you, everybody.